saw people running and screaming and crying, blood everywhere.
I was scared. I was thinking maybe this is just a bad dream.
It was very traumatizing.
It was a time of fear and chaos, and a time when ordinary people became extraordinary.
There are a number of heroes in this day.
Tonight, stories of hope and healing.
What's going through my mind? Will I survive or will I die?
The spirit of a community coming together.
These kids are like my own kids.
From courageous students and the doctors who saved them, Pittsburgh and the entire nation stand behind this community. We are Franklin Regional Strong.
Good evening, everyone. Behind us is Franklin Regional High School, where it's 7:13 a.m. on Wednesday. It all began. The first reports of students being stabbed.
We now know that there were 21 students stabbed and a security officer who was injured. The most critical remain in the hospital.
And Lisa, as you know, this community has really come together in the wake of this tragedy. Channel 11's Joe Holden was the first reporter on the scene, and he tells us how this area has remained strong.
30 minutes east of Pittsburgh, rolling hills and tree-lined streets, quaint shops and neatly manicured homes. Murraysville, a picturesque Westmoreland County town.
It's just a beautiful place with a lot of beautiful people.
But the heart of the whole town, the schools and their 3,600 children.
We were, of course, very concerned, for our kids.
They're a source of pride. The atmosphere, tight-knit.
We call ourselves a big family out here.
On Wednesday, that family was shaken when 24 people were hurt after police say a sophomore went on a rampage with 2 knives. It was their worst day, but since then, this story is about how strong they're coming back. Parents feel the community support is already getting them through.
Each person tries to do what they can to help each other out, whether it's through business or whether it's personal. And I just think it's so nice to see people come together like this in the moments of tragedy, and it's really been very helpful.
General opinion is, how could it happen here? Franklin is such a great school district.
For those who live and work here, it doesn't seem possible. How could this have happened?
It's a very close community. It's a very safe community. Everybody knows everybody. I kind of know everybody's dog more than I know the people.
Like most, they know the answer won't be an easy one to find. It's that closeness, these bonds, that are putting Murraysville on the road to recovery, hoping to find normal all over again. All the while, knowing it won't be easy.
We'll get through this. It will take time. It will take love. We will find a way to get through this, and we will be strong enough to do that.
Joe Holden, Channel 11 News.
And the community really is showing its strength. The police officers, the paramedics, the firefighters. When they responded to this call, it wasn't just as protectors. These were their neighbors.
Indeed, Lisa, and those first calls came in during a shift change, so those first responders, they really didn't know what they were getting into, and heroes emerged. Our Rick Earl wanted to shine a spotlight on them, and he spoke to some of them today.
It was just another routine Wednesday morning when the call came in here to Medic 1 in Murraysville. Reports of multiple stabbing victims at the high school just down the road. These EMTs and paramedics were among the very first responders into the scene. What did you see? Were you prepared for what you saw?
No, I was not. It must look like a war zone. People walking around covered in blood, people laying in the driveway, in the parking lot.
Medic 1 Chief Derek Girano got there first.
One of the first people I came to was the school security guard who was sitting upright against a locker in one of the hallways, and obviously had an injury because of the blood on his shirt. I asked him if he was okay. He said, take care of the kids first.
As it was going on, felt like it was a dream, but you quickly realize it's reality and you just do what you do.
Had you ever seen anything like this?
Absolutely not. Never expected to either.
I sat down with the medics who responded that morning. Among them, Patty Rupert, who just started working 8 days ago. Did something in the back of your mind say, hey, what have I gotten myself into?
Yeah, it was a little scary. I'm like, what am I gonna do? I'm not sure what I'm doing yet, but I followed the direction of my peers.
EMT Andrew Rocky Zakshevitz told me he used humor to try to calm a student victim.
I asked him if he liked his t-shirt, and
And he said, yeah. I said, well, good, you're going to pull through so I can buy you a new one. And I ended up cutting his shirt. His aunt and uncle called the station about 5 or 6 times trying to figure out who I was. Just thanked me over and over again.
So they called you to thank you for saving him?
Yeah, which that's very unusual. You don't hear about that. You know, in this field, you see a patient, and if they make it, you kind of look for that and make sure see how they're doing, and that's that. But it's definitely rewarding seeing and hearing from the outcome.
Medic 616, can you please respond to Redstone Highlands for a patient having chest pain?
At the Medic 1 station, the hallways are filled with cards and letters of thanks from students. You undoubtedly saved lives.
It makes me feel like I did my job. You know, I wouldn't consider myself a hero, you know, and I don't think that anybody here would consider themselves a hero. We're just grateful that we helped out.
It's hard because I have children myself, so it's more so, you know, trying to get them to comprehend. And thinking back, I'm glad to, you know, have worked with a great group of people that day. I mean, they made a big difference. I couldn't imagine working with a different group.
Everything just worked. You know, we couldn't change that had happened, but we changed the outcome. So, and we did our jobs.
The director here at Medic 1 also praised the assistance from several nearby ambulance services. He says everyone working together, treating the patients and getting them to the hospital in less than a half hour saved lives. In Murraysville, Rick Earl, Channel 11 News.
And Lisa, you know, not all the heroes were wearing uniforms. Some of them were students who jumped into action who ended up being injured.
One of them is Brett Hurt. He pushed his best friend Gracie out of the way, and when he ended up getting stabbed, her actions then saved his life. Channel 11's Courtney Brennan has more on these brave teens and their reunion.
Brett and Gracie were just 2 normal teens hanging out in the hallway that Wednesday morning, and then they saw the alleged suspect stabbing people all around them. And what Brett did in that moment changed their lives forever. What do you say to your best friend who saved your life?
Oh, crap.
Gracie Evans and Brett Hurt didn't know if this reunion would happen.
I love you, bro.
The last time they saw each other, they were both in shock. The hallways of Franklin Regional High School were under attack. Another student coming toward them, armed with 2 knives.
Just jumped. Like, I don't know, I guess it was, you say it was just natural, or like I had a feeling or something. Afterwards, I heard her screaming and crying, and I didn't know what was going on. And then the pain in my back, I realized something happened.
Brett was stabbed in the back. Gracie looked on in horror.
I was thinking, oh my God, what just happened? Like, did this kid just really run down the hallway and stab my best friend right in front of me in the back?
She knew she had to save this boy who took the knife for her. And so Gracie started putting pressure on the wound.
If it wasn't for her for helping me at least stop most of the bleeding, I would have bled out right there on the floor.
I thought it was like he was going to be paralyzed or something because he got so closely stabbed to the spine. I thought he was going to be paralyzed, upper, lower, both.
None of that happened because of Gracie's quick action. Not only is Brett recovering well, he's already out of the hospital. He told Channel 11 that the physical wounds are painful, but some of the emotional scars are worse.
I'm going to remember that I saved somebody's life. I helped another person out, and that will be something no one can take away. It's a good feeling, but also I'm going to look back and gonna feel bad for the person who did it because he was sick. Wish he could get the help he needed.
Brett and Gracie didn't know Alex Reibel. They never talked to him or had any interactions with this 10th grader who's accused of stabbing 21 people. Brett can't understand why Reibel would resort to such intimate and aggressive violence.
It was your choice. You chose the wrong one, but you had to pay for the consequences. If you thought more and you picked another road, it would have been different, buddy.
Both Brett and Gracie worry about returning to school and walking the hallways where the unimaginable happened. But they are looking forward to one big school event, prom.
Yeah, I'm gonna be dancing.
He's a heck of a good dancer, I'll tell you that. He's a heck of a good dancer. He's better at hip-hop than me. I epically fail at hip-hop. He is the king of hip-hop.
Over the next few weeks, Brett will work on building up his strength. To encourage him, Gracie wore her favorite Captain America sweatshirt for their reunion.
Yeah, you want to see something?
Maybe you need the shield.
Two students, both superheroes, who saved the day.
I love you, bro, and you saved my life, and I can never repay that.
What is this? I got your back always, you know that.
Brett is now home recovering from his injuries, and as we said in the piece, he's really excited to build up his strength and get on that dance floor and show off his moves at prom. I'm Courtney Brennan, Channel 11 News.
Brett and Gracie's story is just one example of how students save lives.
I turned around and saw him stab Sarge, the police officer, and afterwards he went down and Mr. King took off to take the kid down, and I was right behind him, and we both jumped on him and immobilized him.
Their stories of heroism when Franklin Regional Strong continues in a moment.
Most of the kids ran away from danger. You ran toward it.
I was put into the situation. I didn't know what was going on until I was in the middle of it.
Wednesday morning, as you can imagine, it was chaotic, it was frightening, and it was terrifying, and it just took seconds, really, these kids acting on instinct, the students, the teachers, everyone really stepping up and fighting back.
At least it was these split-second decisions that really helped this situation, this awful situation, from getting any worse. Channel 11's Rick Earl has a story of one young man who helped end the attack.
In addition to the paramedics and EMTs here at Medic 1, a number of other people played a very critical role at the school that morning. Among them, a high school senior who risked his own life to help take down the suspect.
I was in the school and I came down the stairs and I saw the kid, and Mr. King was yelling at him and I didn't know why. I turned around and saw him stab Sarge, the police officer.
As students were running through the halls, senior Ian Griffith saw Assistant Principal Sam King chasing the suspect. Griffith joined in.
I was right behind him, and we both jumped on him and immobilized him. And
what was going through your mind when you're doing this, when this is happening?
Not much.
You just instinctively reacted like that? Were you scared? Were you nervous?
Yeah, I was looking for a garbage can to hit him with or something.
While the principal had the suspect on the ground, Griffith attempted to keep him from stabbing them.
Mr. King immobilized him. He pinned him down. I jumped on top of him as well and just held down his wrists and arms and tried to keep the knives stationary.
So you're holding his hands with the knives in them?
Yes.
Did he try to stab you?
No, he couldn't move his hands.
The principal then told Griffith to go get an ambulance and the school resource officer.
I went out to the lobby to go relay that message, and then as I was coming back, there were many more teachers on top of him and janitors as well helping out. So I figured that I didn't have to do anything else. So I went with the rest of the student body and went down to the field.
Griffith, who plans to attend Penn State in the fall, says he didn't know the suspect, and he says he didn't hear the suspect say anything. Most of the kids ran away from danger. You ran toward it.
I was put into the situation. I didn't know what was going on until I was in the middle of it.
Do you think you saved lives?
No, I think that Mr. King was the main hero here.
And Griffith says he's not worried about returning to the high school.
It's been a safe school. There's never been any incidents, even with knives as I'm concerned. So I don't think there is any reason why we should be afraid and have metal detectors. So I think the school didn't do anything wrong in this situation.
He says his thoughts and prayers are now with the victims. You've had some time to think about this. What's your reaction to what happened?
I'm disturbed, mainly. Sorry for the victims and praying for them.
His friends call him a hero, but Ian Griffith brushes that off and says he just played a small part in bringing down the suspect and ending the attacks. In Murraysville, Rick Earl, Channel 11 News.
The attack didn't just affect everybody here in the Murraysville area. It affected every parent, student, and teacher.
Even children who don't outwardly show signs that they might possibly be affected by this, that they could be struggling with what they saw on television and on social media. How to help your children cope when Franklin Regional Strong continues. You can show your support as you are watching tonight. Use the hashtag FRStrong on social media and then see what others are saying live streaming on wpxi.com.
We do know he brought a knife into school at 7:15 this morning and started stabbing people.
He witnessed everything and he was like, yeah, I was stabbing people, and it was just like, whoa.
Anxious parents waited to make sure their children were safe.
We have been in breaking news coverage now for much of the day. Dozens of ambulances and police cars rushed to Franklin Regional High School.
Police tell us 22 people were stabbed inside Franklin Regional High School.
On TV, the radio, Facebook, Twitter, all of social media, there was really no escaping what happened here on Wednesday.
So how do you help your children understand this senseless act? And how do you spot the signs that this might be affecting them? Channel 11's Vince Sims went to an expert for answers.
And we did want to make sure that we're able to give some information to parents out there on how to deal with this with their children. So we've brought in Siobhan Wright, who is the director of the Women's Resource Center with the YWCA of Greater Pittsburgh. She's also a clinical social worker to help us understand this. Thanks for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
First of all, explain how something like this could affect children.
Definitely, it is a tragedy, and with the influx of social media, it's all over the internet, it's all over the news. So it could affect children in a lot of different ways. Children typically aren't directly affected immediately, so they might have some slower reactions. So they might not really talk about it right now, but as time goes on, they might show some symptoms of what's called PTSD or post-traumatic stress disorder. They might have nightmares. They might be really reactive to things they're not normally reactive. So that's hyper arousal. So just being really nervous and really jittery, really jumpy. So it's important to be aware of that. They might not want to talk about it right away, and that's okay. It's really just important to take their lead. So, and it might come out later on that they do want to talk about it. So just being aware that children are affected in different ways. Some might not have a direct reaction, but as time goes on, especially if they were very closely related or they were very close to what happened, things might pop up.
Yeah, and as we're talking about that, if parents start seeing that behavior change in their children, then how do you go about trying to talk to them about this or helping them deal with this? What should a parent do or say?
I think just being upfront, just saying, you know, I'm really concerned about you. I notice that you might not be doing the same thing that, you know, that you might not, you might notice that they're doing things differently. They might not be having as much fun doing the things they normally did to have fun. Like I said, they might be having nightmares. They might be isolating. They might have a change in appetite, a change in sleep. So just being upfront with the child, I notice that things are different, that you're acting a little bit differently, and I just want to make sure that you're taken care of because I'm concerned about you.
And as the parent, should the parent engage the child to ask questions about it, or should the parent kind of just be that listening ear to the child?
Sure. I think at the beginning it's important to say, I'm not going to make you talk about this, but just know I'm available. So take their lead. They might not want to talk about it right away. Just follow their lead.
And even as parents out there watching this, of course, parents probably have a little bit of anxiety, you know, sending their kids to school. So as a parent, should I stay strong and not let them know that I'm concerned, or is it okay to talk with my child and let them know that I'm fearful as well?
I think it's important to be honest with your child and tell them that you're concerned. The more you act like it's not okay to talk about, the less that they're going to be comfortable talking about it. So it's really important to just be honest about it and give them the same sense of structure and routine that they had before. If they see you're anxious about it, be honest about why you're anxious, but don't put all of your anxiety onto the child so that they can try to work from the same level of routine.
Exactly. And of course it is okay to seek that help and to talk about it. I know every school probably has a counselor. There'll be a lot of services out there, and it's okay to seek those services?
Absolutely, absolutely. You're definitely encouraged to do so.
All right. Siobhan Wright, clinical social worker and director of Women's Resource Center for the YWCA Greater Pittsburgh, thank you so much for sharing this information with us, and we hope that it helps you in dealing with this tragic situation. Now back to you.
This reminds us of something Pittsburgh's own Fred Rogers said. When I was a boy, I would see scary things in the news. My mother would say to me, look for the helpers. You will always find people who are helping. To this day, especially in times of disaster, I remember my mother's words, and I am always comforted by realizing that there are still so many helpers, so many caring people in this world. Westmoreland County holds drills to prepare for something just like this, but that day it was the real thing. We talked to some of the emergency workers and have that story coming up on Franklin Regional Strong.
It was very active, very chaotic, but that's my job. When people are going one way, my job is to go the other way.
I'm never going to look at that hallway the same. I'm never going to walk down it the same way again.
In the midst of unthinkable tragedy inside one of our schools,
you think you're so safe there, and then something like that can just happen.
Came acts of incredible courage.
Students are safe as safe can be. We haven't lost a life.
Tonight, a tribute to the heroes who make Franklin Regional strong.
No one could have predicted what happened in the hallways back there, but emergency workers were ready.
David, you know, we've covered many of these emergency drills, and when it was the real thing, when it really mattered, they were ready. It was precise, it was coordinated, and it minimized injury. We had a chance to sit down and speak to some of those emergency workers. On Wednesday morning, there were screams in the hallway that alerted school resource officer wpxi that something was wrong.
We opened the door to my office and exited my office into the hallway. Students were running. And the first thing I noticed was students were bleeding. Some of them were bleeding profusely, running out the door. Their fellow students were helping them to get out the door. And I heard one student yell to me, "He's got a knife. He's cutting people." And I just said, "Who?" And I don't know. Where's he at? We don't know where he's at.
I sat down with Buzz, the Murraysville police chief, and the head of Westmoreland County Public Safety, who relived that morning.
Started down the hallway, at which time I saw Sergeant Recitar leaning up against the doorway there, and he was holding his left side, and his whole shirt was nothing but blood. I saw two individuals laying approximately, like the chief said, about 5 feet right behind him, and I started to Sergeant Recitar to check on him and make sure he was okay. He says, "I'm fine." And one of the other security guards said, "Buzz, cuff him." And at first I didn't know what he meant because I didn't see anybody. But here, the two that were laying there right beside him was Assistant Principal Sam King and the actor, at which time I placed him in handcuffs, you know, pat him down, make sure he didn't have the weapons. And I was told that the weapons were already secured. And I stayed with him. The chief come down. We kept talking to Sergeant Recitar just to keep him alert.
Buzz radioed police for help. Murraysville Police Chief Tom Seafield was just starting his shift when he heard the call and rushed to the scene.
It almost looked like, you know, some kind of disaster hit. So I sort of knew at that point that, you know, this can't be good. You know, this can't be good. And going into the building, I mean, the whole impact just got worse as you went in. And it was chaotic, and it was quite a scene. My first instinct, you know, as an emergency responder is to stop and give aid. But I knew perhaps there were more important things in there. These people were being taken care of. I had to go inside the school to see what was going on.
At that point, did you know if the suspect had been apprehended?
No, I didn't know at that time.
So it was an active scene?
Yes, it was. It was fluid, yes, yes.
And then you walked into the building, and what happened next?
Well, I sort of went running into the building. As I went in, you know, there's a lot of people in the hallways. It's chaotic, some screaming and scuttling about. I believe I was directed towards the hallway, which turned out to be the science wing on the first floor of the high school. At that point, I began to see drops of blood that sort of led into that hallway. As I rounded the bend and proceeded down the hallway, I observed who I know to be a security guard sitting in a seated position with his back leaning against the door jamb. I observed that he was bleeding from the stomach area. At about the same time, about 5 feet behind that point, I observed Officer wpxi with a younger student in handcuffs and taking control of that student.
The suspect, a 16-year-old sophomore, Alex Reibel.
Did he seem dazed? Did he seem like he was resisting, or did he seem like...
He didn't. When I got there, he was very passive. He was just laying there. He did everything I asked him to. I asked him, "Is anybody else with you?" He said no. And once I got back in there is when I really realized the full impact. And This part gets me because my son's a senior. And I didn't know if he was in there or not.
Only later did he learn his son was okay.
Started to see blood laying on the floor, scattered around the floor, and I started to peer into the rooms as I went down the hallway. I came to room 114. I went into that room, and I think that turned out to be the room of 2 critical patients. I observed that time blood all over the place. My detective, Sergeant Tappy, was actually on the floor with one of the victims who appeared to be gray to me, and we actually probably thought that he was going to go.
The kids that are seniors now, I've been with them since they've been in 2nd grade. So I've gotten to know a lot of them know me. And it's tough. You know, at the time, going through and assisting with the injured net, I try to put in my mind, I didn't want to see faces because I didn't have time to be emotional. I had time to do a job, and that's what I had to do.
We can plan for these type of events, but we're never prepared. There's a big difference between planning and preparing.
I don't know if there anymore there could be such a normal class life anymore. For the kids that are in the high school right now, that have witnessed it, that have gone through it. But it's a healing process now.
Probably most of us have children, you know, and it impacts you as a father, a grandfather. You know, they are so precious to us. This shouldn't happen. You know, this kind of stuff shouldn't happen. Can we ever prepare completely for something like this? No, I don't think we can.
There are still so many questions about what could have possibly set off this attack. Well, we went to a man who helped answer some of those questions for the FBI.
Channel 11's Alan Jennings spoke to a former FBI agent who talks about what might have possibly set this suspect off, as well as what federal agents would be looking for inside the teen's home.
Alex, do you want to say anything about this? Alex Rabel's age and computers will speak volumes to investigators. Retired supervisory FBI agent Larry Leicar, currently chair of La Roche College's Criminal Justice Program, told me the FBI seizure of computers and hard drives from Rabel's home just may reveal his most intimate communications, including identifying a possible partner, a mentor, or an online bully.
They're going to try to find out who did he talk to. And they also have a legitimate concern. Sometimes individuals decide to commit these acts jointly. That's a possibility.
So what if there is an accomplice, a sleeper? Federal agents are checking Rabel's cell phone as well, text messages, to find out also who he's been talking to.
They're going to try to make sure that there isn't another potential attacker who might be out there thinking about it or may have actually planned it with the offender.
A real accomplice, of course, according to Leicar, would be a frightening prospect. Agents are now working with Murraysville PD feverishly to uncover any possible dark side connection with Rabel's friends. Leicar's experience as an FBI expert in terrorism and violent crimes gave birth to his latest book. Leicar told me a teenager's homicidal rage similar to Rabel's is almost always deeply personal.
We do know that when someone makes a choice, once they commit to bringing the weapon, actually getting the weapon, they've now moved beyond just the anger stage, which always is there. Now he's obviously been angry because that's a precursor to violence.
What and who triggered Rabel's stabbing rage?
I mean, he's angry about something. Now, when that started, in some cases, it can be relatively a short time ago.
I asked if it appeared that Rabel had a hit list.
He could have had several individuals that he was personally looking for. In other cases, though, that have happened where the individual, in some cases, they're just told, even the victims, they choose them randomly.
Rabel's 8-inch knives are what investigators call hard-edged weapons, classifying this kind of an attack as very rare in the U.S. As the investigation unfolds, it will unravel the current secret world of Alex Rabel. Alan Jennings, Channel 11 News.
As for the suspect, 16-year-old Alex Rabel is in a juvenile detention center here in Westmoreland County. Police say he came to the school with 2 kitchen knives and began slashing people in the hallway. Rabel's attorney initially said bullying had nothing to do with the attacks, but later told us it may have played a part. And police are looking into a threatening phone call that was made the night before the attacks. The phone is being analyzed by the FBI to see if Reibel made the call. Reibel's attorney says the teen is remorseful, and the boy's father is asking for prayers.
My prayers go out to everyone who was injured today, and I hope they recover as quickly as possible.
He's upset. He knows he's in a world of stuff right now, and how serious it is, and he can't believe he did this, to tell you the truth.
A psychologist will now evaluate Reibel. We'll have more coming up tonight on Franklin Regional Strong.
And you can show your support as you are watching tonight. Use the hashtag FRStrong on social media and then see what others are saying live streaming on wpxi.com.
He was very much surprised by the fact that he was stabbed. And he said specifically, Mr. Lucci, who deserves the credit, took him to his side, laid him down, put pressure on his wound, and really calmed him and supported him. So it's right. There are. I think if anything, we were taking care of the victims. We were managing that, and now those stories of heroism and support and compassion all come out.
No one knows how they would react in a situation like this, but on that morning, those kids remained so calm and collected.
Among those amazing students are Brett and Gracie, whom we met last half hour. Channel 11's Renee Kaminsky met Brett, his mom, and doctors at the hospital.
It's my job to ask questions. So I asked doctors and nurses what they had seen that struck them, and they told me over and over how these teens showed remarkable poise in a situation that most adults would find challenging. Watching him calmly field questions from a room filled with news photographers, reporters, and producers from all over the country, it was hard to believe Brett Hurt is still in high school.
We're all lucky to still be alive.
While his mother, Amanda, understandably gave in to the overwhelming emotion of nearly losing her son.
When my daughter called me at work yesterday, freaking out, and told me that my son was on the list of victims, I dropped.
Brett held it together, even when he talked about the most gruesome details of his attack.
And I was just standing there, and then everything just went like I didn't even know what was going on. I was just so surprised I could barely move because I got stabbed in the back.
And then it happened. A simple cough brought the pain, reminding everyone in that room this seemingly stoic young man was still just a teenager, trying to be strong for us.
I think they're a stoic group, and they're mature beyond their ages.
Dr. Mark Rubino, Chief Medical Officer for Forbes Hospital, told me he and his colleagues had noticed it first. Not just Brett, but the other teens, some of them brought in with wounds that would make adults crumble, showing exceptional strength. Just 38 hours after he was seriously wounded, Brett refused the wheelchair and walked out of the hospital. There are so many stories of teenage heroism at the high school. The ones we've heard about, Gracie Evans keeping her cool, coming to the aid of her best friend Brett. But I saw other acts of quiet gallantry we haven't heard about. Groups of teens, some who don't even attend Franklin Regional, showing up at area hospitals for the families of the victims. But with any tragedy of this magnitude, doctors will tell you no matter how brave they appear to be now, when these students and victims walk back into their school, that's when reality may set in.
They're going to be working through this and thinking about their classmates.
Brett said he does plan to go back to school. He just doesn't know when that day will be. Renee Kaminsky, Channel 11 News.
Students at other nearby schools have been touched by this tragedy. The nearby Penn Trafford district showing support by declaring today Blue and Gold Day. Blue and gold are the Franklin Regional colors, of course. It's a campaign that was started by students on social media to show solidarity for the victims at Franklin Regional.
A couple miles down the road, and people from here know each other. Like, I know I have friends from Franklin, and It's just a terrible thing to happen, and we just want to show that we're here for them. Anything they need, Penn Trafford is here.
Kids thought it would be a great idea to have a banner that they would all sign and put some personal messages on there and send it over there. And they also wanted to trade in the green and gold for a day and trade it in for blue and gold.
Students at Gateway High School in Monroeville are also taking part in Blue and Gold Day. You know, when you think about it, how the first responders who were here at the school, and then later when the victims were transported to the hospital, how the nurses and the doctors did their jobs. It's just amazing. They were really trained for a day like this. Earlier, I spoke with some of them. Doctors and nurses at Forbes Hospital in Monroeville never know what each day will hold. It could be quiet, or it could be like Wednesday.
We didn't know what was coming until we heard of each patient coming in. And once we knew what their injuries might entail, but we were prepared for the worst for each patient.
It doesn't get much worse. At least a half a dozen patients stabbed and bleeding badly. Janine called Dr. David Snedeker, the hospital's medical director, who was already driving in from Pittsburgh.
And as I was driving in from the city, about a 30-minute drive, I started seeing the ambulances pass me as some patients were going to the city, and got a sense that this was going to be, much worse, I think, than I'd expected.
It was. The stab wounds were serious, some life-threatening. Nurse Dick Beck remembers one in particular.
He had a laceration on his right side, and it was fairly deep. Trauma surgeon was there, and he said where he needed to go right away.
If you're getting a sense that there was calm here in all this chaos, you're right. Forbes is a level 2 trauma center. That's the second highest. These doctors and nurses have been training and training and training. Their mantra is expect the worst, hope for the best. Well, the worst rolled right through their doors. The best, you could say, is how they handled it.
The first patient arrived, and we literally had that patient in the operating department in less than 10 minutes.
They did everything literally by the book. It went as smoothly as possible, from the paramedics to the firefighters to the police officers, did everything that they've been taught to do.
He should know Dr. Dan Schwartz served in Iraq and Afghanistan. He's seen bad things, lots of blood. So is Dr. Snedeker, a veteran ER doc, who says trauma nurses and doctors, even though they're working on young kids, possibly some they might know, who've been horribly attacked, at that point must simply go to work.
They're not scared by blood and gory things. It's not that it doesn't affect us, but we can realize that we have a job to do. We have to help these people, so it doesn't affect us.
I don't have the answers to the world, but I feel for the families. I feel for the patients. I feel for what they had to go through. And I look at a lot of people as heroes, and that goes from, what we do to try to help somebody, but the families and those kids, what they had to go through in order to control what was going on, which they had no control over.
The recoveries those doctors and nurses are making possible will take a long time to complete.
Next, how the people in the school district are helping the victims' families heal.
Everybody loves each other and is there for each other, and it's nice to see.
I'm Courtney Brennan. Thank you so much for watching our Franklin Regional Special. Make sure you stick around after the show. I'm putting the final touches on my story for tonight. I'm going to introduce you to Ariana Schofield. She's one of the stabbing victims, and she sits down with us and shares her story.
It felt like it was just a finger running. Like I thought he was just messing with me.
She's a very brave young lady. Her interview tonight on 11 at 11.
Sleeplessness can be caused by any number of things, including your mattress. Mattress Discounters carries the most respected brands. Don't compromise on the quality. Your sleep is too important.
Look at them, making moves that would put an adult in an emergency room. Yet all they really want to do is grow up. It's funny. Everyone I know wishes they could go back and feel younger. Sound familiar? Then test drive one of these.
During the Cadillac Spring event, lease the quick and nimble 2014 Cadillac ATS for around $399 a month with zero due at signing. Change the way you drive forever.
Weather in Pittsburgh is unique. We can go through 3-4 seasons in one day. We know you're busy. Weather may be the last thing on your mind, but it's the first thing we're looking at. We are severe weather specialists. That's what we do.
Stephen Cropper leads Severe Weather Team 11. Coverage you can count on.
We want to end tonight where we started, with the people of Murraysville, Delmont, and Export, the communities of the Franklin Regional District.
And Lisa, our Joe Holden is with us once again to show us how they're sticking together.
It's a powerful scene, the beginnings of a comeback.
Because of this experience, we've grown stronger than we ever been.
It's day 3, another day off for Franklin Regional students, and school spirit is catching like wildfire. These students are staying busy.
Shirts are coming out by the dozens, going to surrounding communities and sports teams, and we just couldn't be more thankful and appreciative of all the support we've been getting from everybody.
The t-shirts with words Proud FR came about through Eric Hanshy's company, GoFancy.com. Eric, a parent of a Franklin Regional sophomore, came up with a simple yet positive message in the middle of the night. And since word got out, they've been stormed with orders.
Volunteers are going as fast as they can to get them done. A couple thousand already gone today, 2 more thousand coming at 3 o'clock, 5,000 tomorrow and 5,000 Monday.
We can't make the shirts fast enough. You know, we've got orders for schools all over the country.
Courtney Mickle, a junior at Franklin Regional, says being here with friends is bringing a little bit of normal into what's been a horrible week.
This is the first time I've been able to see a lot of people, and just going out front and seeing my classmates and even their parents, it's just making everything more comfortable.
An incredible moment happened while Channel 11 was inside this Marysville warehouse. This is Michael Spila. He spent a night in the hospital after he was stabbed in the back. Michael, a Franklin Regional sophomore, was here making t-shirts. His dad told me they are forever grateful for the work of first responders. This scene here is both heartwarming and chilling.
Especially the victims coming down to help make these shirts already. And just the smiles, they're smiling already 2 days after. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable.
Michael is expected to make a full recovery. Meanwhile, the work continues at a frenzied pace to spread the message.
Here we go, buddy.
One t-shirt at a time. It's helping students like Ben Wagner and Valentina Fripoli cope with what happened at school.
Just how something so negative could turn out to be something so positive throughout the community. It's just crazy how many positive things are coming from this, and how it's just making our community such a closer and tighter community, and being just amazing.
When it gets tough, we all come together like no other. I mean, Franklin has been through so much already, and every time something happens, we just get closer and closer. We are really tight-knit community in school, and I know when it comes down to this, everybody loves each other and is there for each other, and it's nice to see.
This family, Franklin proud, Franklin strong, is ready to turn the page, to move past a dark chapter. That April morning that shook the heart of this Westmoreland County town.
Murraysville, we're a lot of happy people, and we just love our community.
In Marysville, I'm Joe Holden, Channel 11 News.
Thanks, everyone, for joining us to celebrate all the people who did such good on such a terrible day.
11 at 11 is next right here on Channel 11.
I think our instincts kicked in, and everyone just knew what to do, and the hospital was prepared to take care of multiple patients, and we did just that.
Murraysville is a big municipality. It covers a lot of square miles. But after this event, it became a small town. People helping people to get through this tragedy.